It is, though. It is very close. Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. So, what was it initially that drew you to this part in this Griffin film? Were you sent it? Did you audition?
Yeah, well, Sam and I have been friends for a long time. Sam and I worked on a film together, a film called Ceremony that I did when I was like 23. He was still in college.
Yeah.
And so Sam and I have been friends for a long time, and I knew he was working on this movie, and I was familiar with the short that he made about this movie, so I just, I always knew that if he was able to actually get it off the ground and make it as a feature, that I would want to be a part of it. But really, I'm familiar with Sam as a writer, and obviously as a person, but I knew the kind of movie that he had talked about making and wanted to make, and that was a movie that was a romantic comedy, but not a conventional romantic comedy that sort of lives in the artifices of, like a 3-act structure, and the lead making a romantic gesture at the end to, get the girl or the guy back, and this was a movie that was convoluted and complex with feelings, and it was about people not really knowing what they wanted in general, let alone being, from a relationship. So I just was excited to make something that was, striving to be honest and funny and, authentic. And, it's about these 4 people, living in Los Angeles who are definitely a specific type of character and person, sort of lacking that self-awareness, of where they are and who they are. But it was, I just was always excited about the kind of movie Sam set out to make,
And I do like that there's a new kind of modern twist on the romantic comedy these days, where they're always kind of a little bittersweet.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the independent romantic comedy.
Yeah, where the people aren't really meant to be, and it's sort of like, your significant other before you meet the real significant other. It's like you don't know if these people are going to be are going to spend the rest of their lives together, and it ultimately doesn't really matter because it's so much more about them as individuals than it is about them as a couple. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so did you find it interesting that it wasn't so much showing the relationship as showing how they grew through it?
Well, that's, ironically, that's really what the movie is about.
Yeah.
It's not about being in a relationship. It's these couples sort of dancing or skirting around the idea of a relationship, or what a relationship is to them. Probably isn't what it is for the other person in the relationship. So it's much more about the individuals than it is about the actual relationships.
Yeah, sure. And I won't keep it too much longer, but just was there anything specific that you related to the character with, or that you were able to kind of imbue him with?
Yeah, I mean everything. I think everything. It's really it's young people, like who are 26 and 27 who are not living where they want to live and not doing what they want to be doing, and so they're confused because their state is confusing.
Yeah.
Their emotional state and where they're at. They're not complete yet. They're not fully there.
Yeah.
And they can't really be in a healthy relationship. They think they can, and maybe they do for a while, but that sort of indecision and hesitancy about who you are and what you want, that's something I think everybody relates to.
One question each.
Okay, whatever you guys want.
Sure.
Okay.
Did it start?
You can do 2 questions.
Oh, thanks.
We won't let her know.
So, what do you think is the most important message, I guess, the film is trying to say? Because I know it's very much kind of a modern romance, and that millennials often get kind of trashed on.
Yeah.
But this seems like an honest take. So.
Yeah, I think Sam says it so well. I mean, yo, that's Paul Dano. Anyway, I think Paul says it so well. That's crazy. Anyway, he's really good. Anyway, I think it says 2 things, and Sam says them both really, really well. I think A, it's that these are things that everyone kind of goes through at some point, and I think 2, and most importantly, is the things that we all have to work through in order to have the love and the relationships that we all in some way really want, but we just kind of rerun the first time we're challenged or butt our head against something. I think hopefully people walk away from this film realizing that it takes a little work, and it's okay to be frustrated and be mad and be upset and be happy and be in love and be, you know, all of those things. Like, that's part of the process.
And yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome. I tried to get you too.
I know.
I tried.
Appreciate it.
Nice to meet you,
So
Patty.
there needs to be
So,
more.
what was it that first drew you to the script and the character? Trying to dive right into it.
Yeah. You're like, hi, how are you? What's up? I think, honestly, I think it was speaking to Sam Boyd, the director. I watched his short, and then I had like a Skype meeting with him, and pretty quickly I was like, I kind of got what he was about and what he wanted to make, and it was definitely kind of his way of working and being kind of free to change things and loose about it was really appealing. And then, I mean, the script itself as well, it was really interesting to see like a male writer who is kind of so knowledgeable about like two really different phases of relationships. And like, you know, the highlights of that I would never have thought about, but the difference in sort of a 5-year relationship and like something just starting out. And also that kind of every character felt like really sort of well considered, like both the like guys and the girls. So yeah, I think all of that.
Yeah, and how is it working with Dree with your relationship?
Yeah, it was great. Like it was, I mean, it felt pretty easy. I think the atmosphere on set was very relaxed and kind of helped with that. And yeah, I mean, she's awesome. So.
And so I like that it just feels kind of distinctly modern with how it kind of approaches relationships. So how important do you think that is to kind of, you know, people trash millennials a lot, but I think it's important to show that point of view?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you know, in 50 years, this is what we'll be romanticizing, like the good old days when all you had to do was like swipe right.
So easy back then.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, you don't have to go to a VR date or something. So yeah, I think even though it's like feels like quite of the moment, I think there's always something special in that.
What was the most significant part of making this film for you, like that you took away?
Everybody in this movie has really become my family, and I love them more than anything, and that for me is the most special thing I could ask for.
So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about just like the starting process of making the film.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I think
It started out vague for you.
no, it's fine. Yeah. No, there's definitely a starting point. So I made it as a short film first. It started as a short film that came out a couple years ago, and basically when I made the short, it was 20 minutes long, and there would be, you know, I was kind of packing a ton of stuff in, and there was a lot of stuff that I wanted to put in it that I just didn't have enough time, and I, you know, was kind of feeling like I could expand it, and feeling for a long time, like in the couple of years that it's taken to go from making the short to putting the feature out, I had been feeling like, oh, I want to go deeper with everything. So whether it was a scene or a line or an idea, it was really important to me to have the bigger canvas and flesh it out. And it just made sense and felt right for my first movie. So then I wrote it as a feature and put that together, you know, not super quick, but pretty luckily quick considering how hard that can be, how hard it is. So yeah, it was mostly just, you know, wanting to tell this story on a bigger canvas and make a movie about what it really feels like to try to love somebody when you're young and you don't have all the answers yet. You know, you never do, but you have kind of especially few answers when you're young. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so what are the challenges with, like, obviously you're content that you got to expand the story, but
Sure.
what are the challenges of, you know, making a short film into a feature-length film?
Yeah. It was hard. I mean, not hard. It was interesting because it was really important to me to have the movie feel very character-driven and exciting and entertaining, but not to have kind of like fake plot things that usually happen in a lot of these movies. So I was really trying to avoid, like, you know, pregnancy scares and like sort of the big stuff that movies usually rely on. I wanted it to be about like the really small kind of like mundane minutia of being with somebody. And so that was probably the hardest part. And I worked on the script for a long time, and a lot of that I think was finessing and kind of finding the balance, finding the calibration of how do you make a movie that's as entertaining as a movie with a plot, but that doesn't really have a plot, that just kind of feels more like real life. I think that was, hard but super rewarding and exciting, and yeah. Yeah.
And I did overhear you talking about like romantic comedy.
Yeah,
and
sure.
I know this isn't necessarily strictly one, but
Yeah,
do you think there's
but it
something
is. I mean, it
important-
is in like the classic. Sorry, the
Oh,
classic
sorry.
sense of it's definitely I
Or
think.
it's taking it. It's the modern version of a romantic comedy.
Yeah, I think so. I think these days, I would never like profess to like speak for many more people than myself, but I really wanted to tell a story about what it has felt like for me and what I've observed in my friends' relationships that kind of only happens now. I think a lot of stuff about, romantic comedies that take place now and are about young people, it's always kind of like about dating apps and swiping left and all this stuff that's going to go away. And when you watch that stuff in 10 years, it's going to be like when you watch You've Got Mail, which by the way is great now, but the computers are embarrassing. But that's just the way it works. So for me, it was about trying to find ways to tell a story about what it's like to be in love right now, but that is still overlapping with what it's always been like to be in love, and yeah, kind of like the timelessness of 2018 in a weird way, or trying to find something like that, because everything's, pretty ephemeral these days.